Well, good morning, good afternoon, happy day to you. I am Joel Lowe, and this is the Download Podcast. And with me, I always have my great friend Mike. Mike, say hello.
Hey everyone.
Oh man. So, Mike, what are we talking about today?
Yeah, so today we're going to continue the conversation about generative AI. Many of you know it as ChatGPT, and there's a couple other tools out there.
Mhm.
Uh, Google has Bard. There's a new, a couple new ones like I don't know if it's called Tome or
Tome or
Toomey. I
to
know,
me? Yeah.
yeah, they're Tomey or one,
Tommy? Mm-mm.
but it helps you develop presentations and things like
Yeah.
that. Which I know I've certainly had a lot of coworkers and friends that struggle with building impactful presentations, and Microsoft obviously sees to use your phrase, read the tea leaves.
Yeah.
They certainly know that this is something that's important, and you'll notice that my background is slightly different. So I'm at a conference, a security conference, I'm finishing up. I will be home before this is published, so
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
mind telling everybody. And there's a lot of AI, right? And I'm a big like, is this AI or is this machine learning? Because there's a
Mm-hmm.
very big difference between the two.
Yep.
One is it's just using gates of this or is this that.
Right.
AI is actually pulling information and digesting it. So we're at that point where people are selling AI, but reality it's machine learning, and
Mm-hmm.
just make sure that you understand the distinction of that when you're talking to people and things like that. So you had some good points. You were talking about risk versus benefits, and that's important when we deal with new technology. So Joel, what are your thoughts on that?
So I think you can't be scared of this new technology, right?
Right.
You have to embrace it. It's not coming, it's here, right?
Right.
It is here.
That, yeah.
It is moving. That train is rolling. So look at the risk with it,
Right.
right? Sensitive information, right? So you can put information into one of these AIs to
Mhm.
get something to come out, right? So they could be doing a report or writing something up, and you not know about it. But once that sensitive information gets put into the cipher, the system,
Mhm.
it's there, right? There's no
Right.
way of controlling it, right? At
Right.
this point, there's no
Right.
way of pulling that back, right? So the thing is, one, making sure you have your gates on your information, making sure you have it classified correctly, making sure that you have role base and rules put in place to make sure that anybody just can't get to that information, right? And that should have been done
Right.
before ever this happened, right? Those
Right.
are those are low hanging fruit things that I hope you have in place, right?
Well, and they warn
Um,
you. ChatGPT will say,
yep,
"Do not put sensitive information
yeah,
into this
it does
because
say
we
that.
don't want to be responsible for it." Yeah.
Right. And even privacy, right? I mean,
Right.
make sure that you're being mindful of what you put in there. But then the benefit, right? Like there's so many different benefits that come along with this new product or this new technology, right?
Right.
Because it is moving so fast and it's correlating so much information, you can ask questions like, I want to patch my system. Here's what I have. What is
Right.
the top 5 best patches that will reduce my risk? And it'll give it to you
Right.
and explain to you why, right?
Right.
That's helpful information, right?
Yeah.
Also too, you were talking about in the green room about how we're going to start seeing this embedded into security tools, right? And some of the things that you will see that with. And I can remember like 4 or 5 years ago, I went to a conference, and one of the things we talked about was making sure that we get our vendors to start making the products be helpful, right?
Yeah.
And what I mean is for
Yeah.
them to do something, right? I don't need you to say, hey, something looks weird, Joel. Something looks weird, Joel. I need you to do something, right? I need there to be
Right.
action, right? So if this
Right.
goes against what you our normal day-to-day is, stop it, right?
Right.
And I think with AI, it will get smart enough, right? Skynet, right, to be able to say, hey, hey, this doesn't look right. From
Yeah.
everything I've seen, I'm gonna block this and I'm gonna do this, right?
Right.
And then what you do is then review it. It's literally gonna take place of an engineer, right?
Right.
It's gonna do all these steps, and all you do is make sure that it inherently did what it was supposed to do,
Right.
and then you'll confirm, right? And it continues to keep learning,
Yeah.
and that's what you want, right? It's all about time when you have an incident, right? How long did you recognize it? how long to recover from it. But if it then notices that all of a sudden that, hey,
Go ahead.
yeah, so we want the technology to do something, right?
Right.
And if it sees something that is different, inherently different from the way we normally do business, right? And then it takes action to stop it, and then it lets you know why it took that action, right? That's what you want, right? Especially
Right.
for mid-sized, small companies, and even big companies, because most of them don't have a large security force, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, and this, to your point, this is not a replacement for
Mhm,
managed service, but an addition, right?
mhm,
And I think, we talked about this before, where this is not a replacement. This is a disruptive technology,
mhm.
but it's not really a replacement. This, to your point, will allow smaller firms, maybe don't have a lot of money, don't have a lot
Right.
of resources and everything else, smaller organizations can actually be impactful, right? So
Mhm.
we create run books and playbooks and tell the AI, here's what I know. If you see something like this, do something similar to this. And then the AI is like, okay, I can keep an eye out for things that match these variables and stuff like that. Also, I've seen things like this. I'll treat them like, yeah, AI, treat
Mhm.
them exactly like that, and go from there. So I I like that part of it. I think that's got value. I've certainly, coming as a security consultant in the past, I've certainly seen companies where like it's just me and we're the IT team. There's no
Right.
infosec team.
Right.
There's no cybersecurity team. It's IT, and I don't have money for an MSSP.
Right.
So what can I do to get better and stay secure? And it's kind of like, I don't need to be faster than the bear. I just need to be faster than you,
Yes.
right? And that's honestly, that's how a lot of these smaller firms are just, they have to act that way. They're like, I,
Yep.
I can't stop everything. So I just got to stay out of the news so people aren't like, oh,
Yeah.
that looks like an interesting company to mess with. Let's go
Yeah.
mess with them. So
And my
yeah,
thing,
but
I think you should present it, right? I
yeah,
think you should go ahead and let your executive, like everybody's heard about it, right?
right,
So
right,
before they come to you and say, "Hey, Joel, I want to use Chat GPT," you should
right.
go ahead and show them the benefit of it.
Yeah,
Also, come up with controls and rules around it, and oh, novel thing, come up with a policy. I
right.
have a policy for AI
Yeah,
already. Right?
yeah,
And the whole point of that is to get in front of it, right? And in there it says, you will not put sensitive information in it. You will, like it's the thou shall nots, right? But it
right,
protects you as a company. So if somebody does, you can move accordingly, right? Because what
right,
you don't want to do is go up against, GDPR and CCP&A because you messed with somebody's privacy or you
right,
did something you weren't supposed to. And
right.
Chat GPT and these AIs clearly say, hey, do not put your sensitive stuff in here. But
Yeah,
it is not my fault, right?
yeah.
So,
And
but
unfortunately, we know people are going to do it, right?
yeah,
We know people, like, I wouldn't have a job if I like, oh no, we're good, everybody's good, we don't need me
yeah,
anymore. I can go back to IT, and be like, no, we know people are going
yeah,
to leverage the technology maybe in a way it shouldn't be. And there's,
yeah,
I'm okay with people being experimental, but it's got to be safe. It's got to be experimental in a safe environment, right? Can't be
yep.
public AI. Like, you can get your own AI and build it in a private cloud or something like that. But
I,
yeah,
I just think you need to embrace it. Like you need to go
yeah,
ahead and have a meeting with whatever you're gonna use,
right,
and figure out how you can put controls and things around it, and let the workforce use it, right?
yeah,
Because
yeah,
even though you're like, well, we're not. I remember this with cloud, right?
mhm,
Perfect example. We don't do cloud. We're
right.
not in the cloud,
We're
and I'd be
never going
like,
to go to the
we're
cloud.
never going to the cloud. And then I do a
Yeah.
review and be like, yo, we're already in the cloud. Like we've been in the cloud. Like
You're
let
standing
me
in it right now.
let me show you all the things that are in the cloud.
Right,
And I show them, they be like, oh, I didn't know that was the cloud, or
right.
how, what are we gonna
Microsoft
do?
365.
Yeah. I was
Right,
like, yo, so you can't say that we're not gonna do something because we're already doing it. So if you
right,
think your employees are not using Chat GPT or Bard or Toomey or whatnot,
right,
you're silly, right?
right.
They are.
Yeah, yeah,
So
they are.
so get in front of it, right? Explain the risk to it, right?
Right,
Explain the rules around it, and that way you have control of the
yeah,
situation, or at least the illusion of control, right?
right.
Um,
At least the illusion of control.
right.
Right.
Sometimes
Yeah,
you're hurting
sleep well at
cats,
night.
right? Yeah, at least you can reduce that risk as much as possible.
Right,
So,
right.
yeah,
That's awesome. The
Right.
illusion of control. So let's talk takeaways,
Yes,
right? And
sir.
and so I think the first thing is learn how to use it correctly, right? And that's for true for multiple things, right?
Right.
Get you should get ahead of it. You, the person, should get ahead of it.
Right.
Your organization's probably going to be like, we're never going to use generative AI, or
No.
uh, we're thinking about using it. Get ahead of it. Right at the end of
Yep.
the day, get smart about it. There's a lot of different things out there. You can sign up for a free ChatGPT account.
Sure can.
um, your company may be blocking it, but you can certainly do it at home. Just learn how to use it, right? I went I went to dinner with a vendor a month ago, and his sales engineer was talking about it, and the sales guy was like, "Well, what can I use it for?" And I was like, "You could ask ChatGPT how to sell Wellstar, or the company I work for, your product." And he was like, "Really?" And he literally did it at the table. How can I sell this company my product that does this, right? And it's about how you ask the question,
It's all about how
right?
you ask the question.
and, and that's important, right? How
Hmm.
What are you feeding it as parameters that you kind of need back, right? It's kind of like when you were a kid, you had to write a report, you had that thesis statement at the beginning of your report. What are the three things that you're going to talk about
Hmm.
and decide and prove, and then talk about it in the next three
Yep.
paragraphs, right?
Yep. Yep.
And that's what he did, and it came back with a full 3 page. Here's what you should do. Here's how you should sell it. And he read it, and he goes, "Yeah, these are exactly what I would do as a salesperson." He's
Yep.
like,
Yep.
"This is crazy." So
Yep.
learn how to use it. What's the next one?
I mean, I think it's risky, right? So
Yeah,
we talked about sensitive information. We talked about you need to get a policy, right? You need
right,
to get a policy together. Also, to make sure you read the
right,
information that it gives, right? It
right,
is it is not perfect in any sense of the word. It is learning. We're in the
right.
very early stages of it, and you may
Yeah,
ask it a question. And again, like Mike stated, it's all about how you ask the question. It's like programming, right?
right,
If you program something, it's about how you do the code, right?
right.
To make sure that it compiles, right?
Yeah,
But if you do the code wrong, it may compile differently, right?
right.
It's all about how you ask those queries and those questions, which will then determine how you get an answer. So me and Mike can talk about a subject, and we put in our questions differently, and we'll get two different complete answers, right?
Yep.
And both of them could be right, but it's going to be completely different because the way I asked the question versus the way he asked the question, right? How then the AI interpreted it and then spit it out, right?
Right.
So my thing is play around with it, figure out how to get it to answer the questions
Yeah,
the way you want it or give you the results you want, and that's going to take time. But
right.
number one, please put a policy together. You need a
Yeah,
policy to protect your company. Even
right.
if you're not using it right now, you still should put a policy together and push it out to everybody. You
Yeah,
should. You
yeah.
know who can help you write that policy? Chat
Chat
GPT.
GPT. We did that. Because my GRC guy was like, "Hey, let's find out how good this is," and he put it in, and so we looked at it a month ago, and I was like, "No, that's garbage. Like that is not a good policy." And then 2 weeks ago, so 2 weeks later, we did it again, and we looked at it. It was like, wow, this is actually getting pretty close, right?
Yep,
It had
it gets
it had
better.
what the policy was for, the
Hmm.
scope of the policy. It had none of that before. It had words like should and this. In the new version, it had must. And
Hmm.
I was like, wow, it's gotten better. In two
It's
weeks, it's
better.
gotten smarter. Yeah.
Yep. Skynet.
Yes, it's the end. Well, and that brings us to the last thing, right? Be careful of the laziness effect, right?
Yes.
I'm sure there's a much more scientific, technical term for it, that somebody else smarter than me is going to come up with. But it's not a replacement, right? You said this. It's not a replacement. It's a tool or a force multiplier.
Yep.
What you had a conversation with a college professor. I did as well, and but yours was kind of the same thing. What Tell us a little bit about that.
Oh, yeah. So they have programs that will check to make sure that you work cite your work, that you're
Right.
not plagiarizing and whatnot. And the
Sure.
question was, Joel, how do we get in front of this to know if they are pretty much having Chat GPT write their whole paper? And I was
Right.
like, well, technically there's no way right now, right?
Right.
And then it was like, well, how do we, and it's all because of what we just talked about, right? So depending on how I put in my stuff, so I can say, hey, the Great Gatsby, I want to write a paper, I want it to be this long, and I want to talk about the inherent capabilities of the main character and how it relates to today's whatever. right? And it will write it out, right? And because I asked that question that way, right, my results and my answers are going to be totally different than somebody who did not ask that question that way, right? And they'll read it and say, hey, this came from here, here, here. Here's where
Right.
all this came from. You can check the works cited to make sure that they did that and they're not plagiarizing or stealing, right? But with ChatGPT, there's no way to do that, especially if once I put in the information that I'm trying to get from it, and then I say, give me the works cited for where you pulled this from.
Right.
And then I copy
Right.
that and put that over, right? I mean, all that can do now, and the hurdle that professors are going to have to do until some program comes out that then says I can determine that this came from Chat GPT, which would be interesting, is you have to now have quizzes.
Right.
There has to be a written test to it, right?
Right.
With questions that then dive deeper into the book or
Right.
the material, so that you can then determine if they use AI to do the assignment or they actually did read it, right?
Right. Right.
It's very interesting.
Yeah.
So
Well, I think we talked about this the last time where, doctoral thesis defenses. When you're
yeah,
going for your doctorate, you have to stand in front of a group of professors and defend your thesis.
yep.
Or, when we were kids, when Joel and I were this old,
Back when
before
we
the
were
internet,
little,
you
yeah,
had Cliff Notes,
yeah,
right? So you'd read the Cliff Notes for a book, and then
yep,
the teacher had to know. So the
yep.
teacher would have to buy the Cliff Notes to know, okay, they can answer all these questions
Can
because they
answer
read the Cliff
these.
Notes, but they
Yeah,
can't answer these unless they read the book. And so that's what they did. So I think there's, it's like the bar exam. You're going to have to stand and defend your knowledge against them, your ability to articulate that you
mhm,
understand this information enough. And yeah, that's you gotta know your stuff still. You gotta read what comes out of AI. You have to
yep,
ensure that it's still right and correct. And like I said with the policy, we asked it to create a policy, and it was like, this isn't a good policy. And the second iteration still had issues as well, but it got better, right?
right.
The first
Lem-
one is you don't know anything about writing a policy. The second iteration was you took a college class on it maybe 5 6 years ago, and you try to remember how to write a policy. I'm
I mean,
sure by
and
the
you know
end
what's
of
so
this summer.
crazy?
Yeah.
You can literally, with this technology, you can put a policy in there. So
Right.
here is the way that we do policies at my
Right.
company. Write me a policy that matches this feel and style
Right.
for protecting AI, right?
Right.
Or against Chat GPT or whatnot. And it will literally match it from there. So again, it goes back to how you ask the questions, right?
Yeah.
And understanding the search engine and how it works. So
Yeah.
it's yeah, but if you do just a random ask the question, you're gonna have
Yeah.
to, no matter what it gives you, you need to read it before
Right.
you turn
Right.
in something. Please, people, read it,
Yeah. Well, and to
understand
your
it.
point, right? To your point, like writing the paper, right? Hey, write me a paper in APA style with at least 7 sources noted in footnotes within the document from academic. The more information and context parameters that you give it, the better the information
Better
is.
it's gonna be.
So I really feel like we have data scientists today, or people who specialize in the examination of data to create, actual results out of it. I feel like that's where we're going to be, right? We're
Right.
going to have people that are specialists in asking questions in a very specific way from a
Mhm.
generative AI in order to get exactly what you're looking for, within the first or second time, right? I feel
Yep.
like that's going to be a thing, right? You're going to have people like UX, user experience engineers, people who are experts in knowing how to lay products out so that
Yep.
how to get to it quickly, fast, by design. They're going to be people like that. They're going to go, hey Mike, I need you to ask the AI, right? Go ask Hal. go
Ask them
go
real
ask
quick.
Hal to not kill us and open the pod bay doors.
Skynet,
But yeah, so Skynet.
it's coming, y'all. I feel it.
Three
Hey,
laws safe. It's
hey,
got to be three
please,
laws safe.
we need 3 laws. Hey, don't fake it till you make it, people.
Right.
Don't
Right.
use AI to fake it till you make it. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Please don't. That's
Yeah.
my last bit. Because knowing is half the battle, people.
And knowing is the most important thing when we
It
talk about
is.
generative AI.
It
You got to
is.
know that it's the right information you're getting out of it. You're absolutely correct. Absolutely correct.
Yeah.
So Joel, subscribe if you guys. Thank you for coming and watching our episode. hit the like button if you like the content. If you didn't, let us know in the comments. Let us know
Yeah.
what we could do differently, better. Subscribe. We try to put these out pretty regularly. We're going to get a little better at it. But let us know
Yeah.
what your thoughts are and how we can answer questions. If you got thoughts or ideas about the next thing.
Yep. We appreciate that. Y'all take care.
All right. Have a wonderful day.